Hi, everyone. Welcome to Homespun, where creativity and community come together. I am your host, Misty Doan, and today I'm joined by Craig Conover. You might know him from the TV show Southern Charm, but today we're going to talk about how he rediscovered his love of sewing, which led to him starting his very successful home decor brand, Sewing Down South. Craig's journey reminds us all to embrace your hobbies, trust your instincts, and ignore the haters. All right, Craig, thank you so much for being with me today. I really, really appreciate it. And so why don't you give everybody a little bit of your background, because it's certainly unique compared to other people that I've had on the show. And I'm super excited to have you with me today.
It definitely is. There's a lot of layers to it, but most of them are progressing forward, I guess. And anyway, sorry, that was a terrible start, but I just started to laugh because I was just on a trip and people would be like, "So what do you do?" And I'd be like, "Well, that's kind of a complex question." So I was born on the Eastern Shore of Delaware and grew up playing, soccer, baseball, all that stuff. So that's what I thought I wanted to do in college. I did not end up doing that. So I ended up in Charleston, South Carolina, and I went to undergrad there and then stuck around for law school. And then in my second year of law school, I was found by the people making Southern Charm, this television show on Bravo. I was only 23 years old at the time. It took me several months to decide if I wanted to do it or not, but I was like, what would I regret more, not doing it and wondering what if, or just doing it and dealing with the consequences later or potential consequences. Of course, 4 years later, I was in front of the entire Supreme Court of South Carolina explaining to them exactly what a reality show meant. But it all worked out. So I'm a licensed attorney, but around, a couple years into TV, I started to pick up on some things that really I fell in love with after taking home ec in seventh grade in middle school. And when I was in school, no matter what sport you played or no matter who you were, everyone took home ec and tech ed. And I started to go home and cook every day. And because half the year you spent cooking, half the year you spent sewing. And so at that point, I was really focused on my cooking. And then I went through a breakup in my kind of mid to late 20s, and I had to leave my garden and my workshop behind. But I had this sewing machine that I had bought. And I thought I wanted to make clothes originally, but I had never been taught how to make clothes, and it's very difficult. But I
Not
did
even
remember,
like a pair of pajama pants? You didn't even...
well, I can do all that stuff now, but
Okay.
in the beginning, I had remembered how to make a pillow. And so I tore up some old shirts that I had and just started to sew. And when, I'm sure your guests all know, but when you construct a pillow, you do it inside out. And so when I turned my first pillow right side out, I got that rush of accomplishment and creativity. And I just fell in love with it. And I started to watch as many YouTube videos as I could and Googling as much as I could. And I would make runs to whatever store was open at the time to buy fabric and crafting accessories, and kind of just went from there. Sorry, sometimes I'm very long-winded, but so for about a year, everyone was messaging. I faced a lot of backlash in my personal life for sewing. No one really understood it, which actually helps me now that I go around and speak a lot at home shows and stuff. And I tell people, like, as painful as it was at the time, there's video evidence that shows that no one thought my sewing was a good idea. And so we're able to turn it into a pro. But for a year, I tried to start a throw pillow business on my own, but I didn't know where to go with it. I didn't know how to scale the business. And so about a year after doing it on my own, my friend from college and his sister-in-law approached me and were like, "Hey, we think we can really turn your sewing into a business." But they wanted to split the company into thirds. And I grew up watching Shark Tank, where you're not supposed to give up over half your business.
Yes.
But my dad was like, do you want, 100% of, a company really not doing anything, or do you want a third of something that might really grow? And so I accepted their offer, and it turned into a real business. And we founded Sewing Down South on April Fool's Day 5 years ago,
Oh,
as
I
a
love that.
cheeky little thing to everyone. And then there's been a lot after that, but that was kind of my route up into starting the company.
Oh, that's amazing. And it's such, I've been reading your book. So for people who don't know, he has a great book. It's called Pillow Talk, and I'm almost done. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. But you talk
Thank
a
you.
lot about that journey in your book. And I just have to say, you're so brave and honest about the struggles and the different things that you faced along the way, and how you kind of just came back to this thing that you loved in middle school. And I also really loved that there was really no shame. You had no shame in the fact that you loved sewing, which I think is awesome. So can you talk just a little bit about that? How you just kind of embraced that part of yourself?
Yeah, I mean, you only live once that we know of, but really, like, it's so rare to find things that really bring you joy,
Mm.
and true joy. And it's, if I've just like, I've watched people put other people down for things that make them happy, and there's nothing that breaks my heart more than that. And I guess, I was bullied pretty bad growing up, just for, I don't know, I guess I was never really able to figure out why, but it helped shape my life. Even when I was going to sign the contract for the show, I was like, I hope they have TVs in the jails back at home. So, like, the guys that were mean to me will watch, because it just sticks with you. But fortunately, I was able to self validate in high school. And when I told myself that I was good enough for me, and my parents, that really allowed me to do things that I wanted to do. And I truly believe that you should do whatever you want in this life, as long as it's not harming someone else. And, if someone else has a problem with it, it's none of your business, right? Like, how other people feel about you is really none of your business. And, I was lucky. Like, when I got my first sewing machine, I really thought that I was going to walk in with the machine and everyone was going to think it was so cool. Cause I think doing things that you want, even against stereotypes or societal things, is a show of bravery and, like,
It is,
confidence.
absolutely. Yeah.
And, I could not have been more wrong. But
Mhm.
that was because I was around the wrong people.
Mm.
And so I am glad that I stuck with it, because I don't know. I hope I hope I can use my journey and my story to help people just do whatever the heck they want in this world.
Yeah.
Just because someone else did things a certain way, for me, like, I was always a why person. Like, well, then why do I have to do it that way? Or why can't I do that? And so I was fortunate enough to have a supportive, like, my parents were supportive. They didn't understand. I mean, they had a kid that had gone from, he was a finance major to law school to then reality TV, and now he was sewing. But
It's
they
quite
just
the
wanted me to
arc.
be happy. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's neat, because a lot of times you have to realize that people's kind of negative comments comes from their own insecurities, right? And so
Yeah.
a whole bunch more people want to do crafting or cooking or gardening or sewing. They're just nervous of what people think, which is silly, right? Because we meet so many people that come in the store and they're like, my son learned to sew, from his grandparents, and we always just kept it inside the house because we didn't really see an outlet to share that. But now he takes the book bag he made to school, now he wears the hats that he makes. And um, shoot,
I
I do
love
a lot of
that.
work with, like, veterans, and the special force guys are like, we love the guy that knows how to sew because he can sew all our patches on our uniforms. And it's just, it's really fun to see crafting come, back into, you know, it just got kind of, home ec got taken out of schools, and it just was quiet. It just lost lost its voice for a little while,
It
but I
really
don't think it
did.
lost its value. So
Yeah, I agree. And it was interesting because I really hadn't thought about my own home ec experience because I also took it in middle school until I was reading your book. It had been years since I'd even considered it. But um, I think I was uniquely fortunate in the fact that home ec didn't feel foreign to me because I was lucky enough to be surrounded by creative people. And so
Right.
creative hobbies were very normal to me, but to be able to, be exposed, if that isn't your normal, to different opportunities, different learnings, and then, like here in your case, you've taken that little spark that you had in middle school, and you've built this incredible brand and business, which is just goes to show why those hobbies matter, whether you turn it into a business or not. And actually, that reminds me, I marked one quote from your book, and I would like to read it if that's okay with you.
Yeah, that's fine. Because I was just
That,
thinking, I was like, as you were saying
okay.
that, I hope people can just say, like, why not me?
Yeah.
Why not me?
Yeah. Absolutely. And so the part I marked is you said, but I have always thought that our hobbies, whether they rise to a passion or not, are also important and useful. They allow us to lose ourselves in an activity that brings us joy. We can't all have jobs that also function as hobbies. Oops. I mean, that's the goal, I suppose, but most are not lucky enough to find that. And I love that. I love that so much because if it fills us up and makes us happy, like you said earlier, that's enough, right? And we should be enjoying our lives as humans. We get this one life, and if we're not doing things that spark joy and excitement, and we're getting it
Well,
wrong, I think.
yeah. And I think COVID really helped with helping people take a step back and focus on whether it be side hustles or hobbies. And, we have this streamlined, you know, work schedule that a lot of us end up in, the 9 to 5. That's just the structure
Yeah.
of things. So I think COVID helped disrupt that a little bit. And you really got to see, like, all right, like, yes, obviously I have to make money to take care of my family, but there is a balance that I need to find. I saw it with a lot of people leaving the city and finding like a backyard, or moving into the city, or just changing their life up a little bit. And if you can find something that you enjoy, you just have to find that balance. If not, you're going to wake up in 30 years and be like, yeah, I can finally retire. And, you might not be healthy enough to do stuff. And I have to counter myself a lot because people are like, yeah, but some of us aren't lucky enough, to be able to start a business that, we do have to go to work and stuff like that.
Sure.
Well, obviously running business work, but my first sewing machine was $199 on Amazon. It was a brother embroidery sewing combo. And that brought me so much joy while I was studying for the bar. And I think that's one of my goals with Sewing Down South, is breaking down the barriers of entry into crafting, because they're actually not as hard to get through as people imagine. If someone wants to start sewing, they're like, yeah, I would have to buy a sewing machine, all this setup. Like, it is kind of a intimidating idea, but it's really,
Sure.
it doesn't have to be, and like I said, I learned most of what I learned on videos on the internet, and everyone else can too, whatever it may be.
Yeah, I agree completely. And it's interesting. I have a very, very similar arc. So like I said, I grew up with a very crafty family, and my mom and my grandma always sewed, but I hadn't sewn in years. And I also ordered a brother off the internet.
Oh, wow.
And it wasn't an embroidery machine though, but it was just a regular sewing machine with all the fancy stitches. And that thing lasted me for years. I sewed on that for years. And I agree. I think because there is a piece of machinery involved with sewing, it can sometimes be scary for people to leap into, but it's really not. And there's so many resources out there to get you going.
Well, it's kind of like, people fall in love with video games because it's something to do. And just by having other hobbies around, it's the same idea. You're going to look forward to going home from work to get to your sewing machine, or from school. It's just, and it's a healthy, that wasn't like a stray bullet to video games. I'm just saying a lot of times people only have that system in their house. And
Sure.
just like you invest in that machine, you can invest in a little sewing machine. And my best gifts that I've ever given have been, handmade from that machine. And it's really neat to kind of be nostalgic. It's like, we just are really into nostalgic stuff. I think we're slowing down a little bit Especially like during the holidays, our holiday lines seem to be very nostalgic, and I think there's a happiness that comes from it. But yeah, I think
Absolutely.
it's funny. Like there just weren't. What was nice for me is there weren't a lot of people that fit my kind of demographics and whatever it may be in the sewing world that was at least on TV. And so it's
Sure.
kind of given me this seat at this inclusivity table from like a back door of being like, hey, I do something for fun and started a business that not everyone understood. And now I'm able to kind of spread that message, which is nice. But it all comes
Oh,
down to like, just do whatever you want to do. Like, who cares what people say?
exactly. And sometimes people just need to know that they're not alone in order to take that
Hmm.
step, right? And so
Definitely,
the fact that
definitely.
you're willing to raise your hand and be like, look at me, I'm doing this thing and I'm loving it. And now, like I said, you've built this incredible business. So let's talk a little bit about that journey specifically, because I think it's such a great story. So if you want to dive into sewing down south, I would love that.
Yeah, it's funny. So when I started, I suffered with like OCD and perfectionism. Like anything I sewed was never good enough. And, I mean, I liked it, but I didn't feel like it was good enough to sell. And so I had all of
Mm.
these people. Basically, what I had done for people that don't know is when I started making those first few pillows, I posted a picture on Instagram that was a little bit of a teaser. And it had the pillows in the picture and it had my sewing machine, but it was about what I was watching on TV. It was like some Disney movie. And everyone started to message me and they were like, please tell me you made those pillows. Please tell me you made those pillows. And I just knew that I truly believed that it was just different enough to work.
Mm.
And there was so much positivity around it, but I couldn't move the pillows. And so when then Jerry and Amanda joined me, because I was like, what am I going to hire a bunch of like retired women that live in my community to come sew in my garage? I was like, I can only make like 2 or 3 pillows a night. How am I going to scale this?
Yeah.
And so they came in and there was actually a pillow factory in Bluffton, South Carolina, right outside Beaufort. And I didn't even know pillow factories existed. I mean, I guess I did somewhere, but
Sure.
I thought they made their own products. I didn't know that you could contract them to make your pillows. And so I got to stay in the design lane, which is what I loved.
Mm.
Amanda was a marketing genius who had worked, on the dollar menu before. She had worked with amazing pop stars that people know. And Jerry was the business guy. He's the reason we make money. If it was up to me, I would give everything away. But we wouldn't have a company. And so we launched on April 1st, like I said, and we sold 9 pillows the first day. And to me, that was plenty. That was proof of concept. Apparently to them, they were concerned. But
They needed some more.
yeah, but the lesson here is we actually only put $1,000 in each, because what we would
Wow.
do is we would take the order when someone ordered a pillow, and then we would take that money and go have the pillow made. And then we would eventually ship that pillow to the customer. And so that was new to me. I didn't know that existed. And that's something that my partner that was good at business brought to the table. And when I speak to people, I say like, I wouldn't be like Sewing Down South wouldn't exist without partners. I know people that
Mm.
run businesses by themselves. Their quality of life is not the same, and their businesses don't do as well because they don't have multiple brains and smarter people around them. You should never be the smartest person in the room, and if you are, it should make you uncomfortable. So
Yeah.
we would do that, but the problem was it took 6 weeks for someone to get a pillow, which I was like, Jerry, there's the story on Southern Charm is that I don't get anything done. So people are going to
Mm.
order and then be like, of course. And then we didn't ship the pillows with an insert at that time. So I was like, everyone's going to be like, we bought a pillow from Craig and it didn't even come with a pillow. But growth has to be sustainable and take time. And so it wasn't until Hurricane Dorian that I basically had to leave the Bahamas, where I was spending a lot of time at that time, and basically starting Sewing Down South. But that was my that was my place of zen at the time. And Hurricane Dorian completely destroyed the island that I was living on,
Mm.
and my house and all of that stuff. So I got on Instagram and said all proceeds of our Bahamian lobster pillow will go to Hurricane Dorian reliefs. Well, all of a sudden, I'm sitting at dinner with my parents and my phone just started to make the cash register sound, which on Shopify, which most people use to process
Yes.
their orders, you hear the cha-ching. And I like went to silence my phone. I was like, "Oh, sorry." My parents were like, "What was that?" And I was like, "Oh, it means we just sold a pillow." And they were like,
Mm.
"No, leave it on." And so all night we just listened to my app, one pillow sale after another. And it was truly incredible. So we sold like something like $60,000 worth of pillows that weekend. And
Wow.
the problem is that we didn't have any of those pillows to sell. So
Because you were still making to order, right? Is that
yes, we
okay?
were still making to order. And so
Wow.
this was one of our first big like learning points or transitional points in the company because it took people 7 to 8 weeks to get these pillows, and even though they were for charity, it loses its luster after that time.
Hmm.
And so we had to start carrying inventory after that. And then when we started to do these pop-up pillow parties, which I had basically gone, my goal was to have boutiques sell my pillows all around the country. I just wanted to go into someone's store and see my pillows. E-commerce wasn't that sexy to me, but I mean, it's obviously incredibly important in a business, and I love it now.
Yeah.
But I needed the validation of other people like being able to walk into a store and seeing our pillows. And so after going to this opening where 200 people had come to take a picture with me and buy one of my pillows from that store.
Mm.
On the way home, basically, if I want to do something and Jerry says no, I just put it on my Instagram story. And then he can't do
Just
anything
a
about it.
little passive aggressive, just a little.
Yeah. So I was like, hey, we're going on this pillow party tour. Like, if you want me to come to your store, just place an order of pillows from us. And Jerry texted me, and Amanda was like, what is a pillow party and where are we going on tour? But boutiques from around the East Coast, well, around the country, but we couldn't do it, started to message us and said, we would love to buy your pillows. We'd love to host you. And so we traveled the East Coast, doing these basically like book signings, but with pillows. And I would hear everyone's story, and we would do towns outside of big cities that are often forgotten on, musical tours or whatnot. And it
Mm-hmm.
was just awesome. Like, people cried. We saved some businesses, like all of these unintentional things, but people with, terminal illnesses came, that it was like one of the last things that they want to do. It was just full of positivity. And it
Yeah.
helped me prove that, like, if we had our own store in Charleston, people would come. And Jerry says all the time, he's like, everything that Craig wants to do is against everything that I learned in business school.
Mm.
But that's why you need multiple kind of opinions. And so we ended up on HSN, which was a huge validation for me. I grew up watching like infomercials. I was always loved them, and I always wanted to buy stuff, but my mom would never. She'd be like, "We need this new knife," and my mom's like, "We have knives in the drawers."
We're good.
Yeah, and so HSN was great, and then we did a partnership with Thomasville that really elevated the brand, and things just started to snowball because we were being yes people, and I wanted to say yes to everything, but Amanda was very good at saying, you have to be good at this before we go into this, because I wanted to go into candles really bad. That became a passion project when I was at Winter House and filming this show. And on my downtime, I would design this candle line, which you guys never got to saw, unfortunately. But so now we make all our candles in Charleston, and then we got into kitchen stuff, and one step, one foot in front of the other. And that's kind of what helped me. Was I used to beat myself up because I was 31 when I started sewing down south, which doesn't sound that late now, but at the time I was like, how have I not done anything with my 20s? Like, in my head, I just didn't feel like I had accomplished anything yet.
Yeah.
And someone was like, dude, tomorrow is the next day of the rest of your life. And I
It's
don't know
so
why
true.
that stuck with me, where they were just like, you can legitimately start over tomorrow. Like, just start. Just do something. They were like, even if you keep moving, like, even if you move backwards, at least you're just not standing in this, paralyzed state of not being able to make a decision. And, having partners helps with that too. So that was, Vera Wang didn't make her first dress until she was 45, I think. So
I think that's right. Yeah. I was going to say, and my mother-in-law, I think she was almost 50 when we started our family's business, which is,
Yeah, that's
you know,
awesome.
it's awesome. It's amazing.
Because
And
you guys
and
are 16 years old now.
16 years. Yeah,
Yeah,
we've been in business
that's
16
awesome.
years. And so it
Awesome.
flies by. And, you know, when you put in the time and you're passionate about what you're doing, it takes time, but it works out. And I think that your story is definitely a testament to that. And I would love if we could touch a little bit. You mentioned the charity aspect that kind of really kickstarted things. And that we've seen that in our business as well, like being willing to share and give back has made a huge difference. And I didn't know if you could elaborate on that just a bit more.
So my goal forever was there's such a uh, nice, sorry, there's a softer way to say it, but I just wanted to get rich so I could help people. I mean, that was my
Mm.
goal. I wanted from the first golf ball stand that I set up on the golf course, like when I started to make money there, or when I like waited tables or bartended, I was like, I want to be wealthy one day so I can tip $100. Like, I want to be wealthy one day so I can donate to charities or help. And there's plenty of ways to help without money, but that's just what I, I don't know. That's what kind of drove me. And that's why I went, into the law direction, where I was like, I really enjoyed the law and I could help people, but it was also going to be a way to make money at a young age so I could start my philanthropic journey sooner. That would just kind of always drove me. What I tell young business owners and small business owners that are having trouble getting the word out about their product, it was my natural instinct to do it. And a lot of people, they want to do it, but they don't even think about it. If you start to give, 10%, 5%, whatever proceeds of a specific product or your company, even for one day of the week, whatever it may be, there's your local news stations hold slots for local small businesses that are doing good in the community. So if your business is doing good by contributing to charities, local charities, you actually can go on like the Sunday morning show at your local news station. It also gives people an excuse to buy your product. So people might want to buy my pillows, but they can't justify buying a new pillow at that time. But they're like, you know what? We can give, to this hurricane relief fund that we wanted to, and get one of Craig's pillows at the same time. Like, that's a win-win. And so
Absolutely.
the charitable thing is just, it's kind of a cheat code, at least it has been for us, where the reasons are completely genuine and like authentic to us. But yes, it also helps your business. And so I've had a lot of fun where it also drives me. Well, it still just drives me to make more money, because the more money that Sewing Down South makes, the longer my leash is to just go do whatever I want with charities. And Jerry will find me traveling wherever I may be. And I was like, hey, we're sponsoring, we're sponsoring this now, or we're sponsoring this team, or I don't like, our sponsorships go all over the country now, and they're in every like little category it could be. But now what that led to is I was asked to join the board of Hope for the Warriors, which is probably my proudest accomplishment since starting TV 13 years ago. I do a lot with the veterans and veteran organizations, and I found Hope about probably 5 years ago. And they give 92 cents of every dollar raised to the cause. And so I think we're in a time where nonprofits scare people, because there's been a lot of information that's come out that a lot of times when you make a donation, it might not always be going to the cause that you think it
Right.
is. And so I've been able to develop this trust with my followers, from doing like hurricane rescue stuff or work with veterans or wherever it may be, that allows us to build this ecosystem of positivity where, yes, it does help Sewing Down South, but that in turn allows us to do more stuff. And so that's definitely a core principle of Sewing Down South. We try to give as much as we can, and I would love to start a nonprofit. I say it all the time, and it's on my list. Amanda's just like, again, keeps me grounded, where she's like, we have so much in the pipeline right now, Craig. Like, you can be on the board of that nonprofit and help them. One day, maybe we can do it. But so I think there's a lot of beneficial things, and it's fun to just be part of your community.
Oh,
I think
absolutely.
it builds respect, and people take you more seriously too.
Yeah, and I think it's a great reminder to hear. Like, you've got this very successful business. You probably could spin up a nonprofit if you posted on Instagram and said you were doing it. You'd have it going tomorrow. But there's so many great organizations out there to partner with, and sometimes that's even more powerful because, like you said, it builds up the community. You meet more people, and it allows continuous outreach. So being willing to say, like, it's not our time just yet, but I can be
Yeah.
on the board and make an impact in this way
Well,
is
and it
actually really
like
powerful.
it builds like also just volunteering your time. I mean, I I always like I understand that a lot of these are blanket statements and people are like, we don't have the time to do it, but these are for people that do. And if you can
Mm,
find the time to go volunteer at like a food drive or clothing giveaway, whatever it may be, like we do a lot with the homeless in our community and we employ some of them. And um, it's like, it just is a snowball effect. Like you don't have to overthink it. And you know what? You might end up doing something and there might not be any evidence that it helped your business, but it helped your soul and it helped the people that you helped. And I would be very remiss to say that I don't think it all comes around.
yeah.
It comes around. And so for us, like I said, that's just something that's always driven us. And I think it helps the business too.
Oh, absolutely. I love that. So, what would you say maybe to someone else who maybe feels alone in their hobby or their craft, that was in a very similar situation to you, to just kind of encourage them in their journey?
Yeah, I mean, I hope that you have a supportive partner, because it would be tough if you don't. But if hopefully that you do. Even if no one else understands like what your vision is. I mean, it goes back to what I said in the beginning. I mean, not a single person in my life thought that sewing down south was a good idea. Not a single one, and we built it into what you see now. And so just because no one else can see your vision, I think you should trust your gut. I don't think you should feel guilty spending time on your side hustle because, I'm hitting that age now where I'm really seeing that my parents are just doing this for the first time too, and just living for the first time too. And your kids would want you to do what makes you happy. I know you want to spend as much time as you can with them, but spend time on yourself too. And the community, through technology, you can just find incredible groups of like-minded individuals, but you should just be more selfish with your time. I mean, it took me a while to get there. I used to get my validation from going out. That was definitely a big chapter in my life. That's where I felt valuable, when I
Mm.
went out and felt cool. And I understand that's a part of a lot of people's lives, but then once you find that passion or that hobby and you can put your time and effort into that, and then maybe you get to start making money off it through like Etsy or whatever you're selling, like that's when you really start to find, value in something. And now I love, staying home and sewing and stuff like that. And, everything's balanced, but please just never give the haters the time of day. I can speak to it because I'm in reality TV and it happens, but I was just speaking to one of the para athletes over at the Para Olympics, and she said she had to turn her Instagram off for like 4 months
Mm.
one time. And I was like, yeah, but you have so many followers who love you that by doing that, you're taking the energy away from all of the people that are rooting for you and love you. And you're giving it to people who don't deserve that time. They're also
Yeah.
never going to root for you. You're never going to appease them, but they don't actually materially affect your life. And honestly, if they saw you in person, they would probably say, hey, I want to be your friend. That's just
Right.
yeah, like they're like, I used to know on the school bus, like the kids that would be mean to me, I know that they were going home and getting hit by their dad or, they had something at home going on. Like it didn't
Yeah.
say anything about me. It was just, I always felt empathy for them. And I don't feel empathy for the online haters, but I also like, if someone says something mean on my page, I just block them. Like, why do they deserve space in my ecosystem? I mean, someone in the TV world told me, like, this mental health professional, like, it's like kind of like cutting. They're like, you can read 50 nice comments, but you're going to scroll until you see the mean one. It's going to hurt your feelings, and you're going to carry that around with you. And so I don't know. I just don't let them steal your joy, because you'll never find someone doing better than you talking shit about you. And if you're really serious about getting good, like, think about like soccer practice, the varsity teams over here and the JV teams over here. You're never going to hear the varsity players talking crap about the JV guys. They're going to be focused on their game and being like, oh, that guy might be good enough to come up. But you'll hear the JV guys talking crap about the varsity team, but there's going to be a few JV guys working their butt off trying to make the varsity team. And it's just like, all right, like, there's always going to be people out there that want what you have, whether that's a mentality or the fearlessness to be silly on the internet, or the fearlessness to have a hobby that they don't understand. It all comes from envy, and really just try not to give that any attention. But I know it's hard, but
yeah, it actually reminds me when I first started making videos, because I worked behind the scenes filming for Jenny for years. And when I first got in front of the camera, I'll never forget, someone commented, "I love everything about Missouri Star except that Misty Doan." And I was like, what? Like, it was so hurtful in the moment, but now it just makes me laugh, because I'm like, well, first of all, they don't know me. And and I think if they did know me, they probably wouldn't say that to my face, and it's exactly what you said. It was really easy to just feel hurt and be like, oh my gosh, I can never do this again. But luckily I was able to, kind of crawl out of that hole that I was in for a moment.
Yeah. And it
can be painful.
You can't let them steal your joy or give them the power. And it's not going to end, unfortunately, but just, you can curate your, the people that you're around. And we interviewed Damon John one time, and he was like, you have to edit your friend group and the people in your life. And, you have to protect your online space too, just as much as the people around you. And if someone's not rooting for you, then they really shouldn't be around. But again, all of it's easier said than done, but just don't let the people that don't deserve your time, absorb that energy, because there's so many people that are excited, to have you around, basically.
Yeah, there's plenty of positivity, so we don't need to give power to that one or two negative.
Yeah, when she said, she told me because she had a lot of followers and she makes like these fun videos, and we were in this world of positivity out at the Paralympics, and she said, yeah, I shut my Instagram down for 4 months. And I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, but what about all the people that were looking forward to seeing your videos, And she's like, I never thought about it that way.
Yeah. It's such a good reminder. Well, I truly, truly appreciate you taking the time for being here and talking to me and just sharing your story so openly. And I want to encourage everyone, if you haven't, be sure to pick up his book, Craig's book. It's called Pillow Talk. It's fabulous. And also let everyone know where they can follow along with what you're doing personally or with Sewing Down South.
Yeah. Oh, and I was going to say, as you said that, sorry.
No, you're fine.
As I just went around, like, I went from this like veterans charity event to Paralympics to like dealing with regular life. Everyone's trauma is different, and some people have a lot like more than, or a lot crazier than others, but like the emotions are still the same, and we're all humans, and like you can bounce around and talk to all these different communities and people, and you're like, oh, like I do that too, or like I deal with that too. And so we're all way more in common than we think. But I think
that's so true.
Yeah, you can follow me on my Instagram. It's just CA and then my last name, Conover. But Sewing Down South has a great Instagram. that we like to do to keep everything up with us. And then I'm going to be with you guys soon, which I'm really
Yes,
excited about.
you're coming out for Birthday Bash. I'm super excited. I think we're going to do a pillow party and a Q&A.
Yeah,
So that should be
I
really fun.
I can't wait. I'll be out in Hamilton, and it's going to be a blast at the end of September. So excited again to build our community and
Yeah.
with y'all. And but yeah, just Instagram's the best place, I guess. And then our website's sewingdownsouth.com. And if you're in Nashville or Charleston, visit our store. We've got a store on King Street and a store in 12 South. And
Awesome. I'm going to make
yeah,
it out there. I'm going to make it to the store.
you should. And they're
I would love
fortunately
that.
it's too, even if you hated the store, you're at least in Charleston or Nashville,
Well, I don't think I'm going to hate it. So you've got great things. So again, thank you so much for your time. And I'll see you here in a few weeks when you make it to Hamilton.
Yeah, I'm excited. Thanks for having me, Misty.
Yep. See you later.